That's right. I'm Kira. Alright, today we're talking Death Note, a series beloved by many. It's in a lot of people's top anime lists, myself included. It's easily in my top 5 anime. It's also loved by people who aren't into anime. An example of this is my mom. Last year for my birthday, my parents got me the entire series on DVD, and I asked my mom if she wanted to watch it with me, and she said yes, and she really liked it. Her favorite character is Ryuk, and she asked me to get her a Ryuk shirt for Mother's Day. And so I did, and she wears it all the time, and that's when I got this shirt here, because number one, Light is my favorite character, and number two, if my mom is gonna have a Death Note shirt, I figure I should too. Today we're gonna be talking about something that's not hated just by Death Note fans, but anime fans in general. That something is the live-action Netflix Death Note movie. And let me tell you, the hate is justified. If you thought the Uncharted movie was bad, buckle up because this is just terrible. My best friend and I first watched this movie back in 2020 as a joke, and oh my god, it's awful. It's so much worse than I could have possibly imagined. Obviously, I had to rewatch it for this video, and I'm surprised by how much of it my brain just blocked out. It's like my mind was like, no, it's too bad, we need to just get rid of it. So why don't you join me on this trip down memory lane where we remind ourselves why this movie is so bad. If you haven't seen the movie, don't. Just watch this video and call it a day because you do not want to torture yourself by watching this whole movie. Trust me, I know. I've done it twice now. The movie opens with shots of a Seattle high school because yes, they Americanized this movie. It does not take place in Japan, and all of the characters have American names. So it's not Light Yagami, it's Light Turner. And it's not Misa, it's Mia. So I would just like to apologize in advance now. If I accidentally call Mia Misa throughout this video, it's really hard to retrain my brain on that one. Anyway, we see Light and dear God, who is that? Light, my boy, what did they do to you? Who in their right mind cast this guy as Light? Seriously, I want to talk because you have offended me on a personal level. We see Light being paid to do someone's homework for them, and yep, we're only 30 seconds into the movie and they already got Light wrong. Perfect honor student Light being paid to do someone's homework? He would never! Look, I know the guy doesn't have the greatest morals, but when it comes to stuff like this, he would not do it. We then see Mia, who's a cheerleader, but then she starts smoking, so we know that she's a bad girl. Alright, and we already got Misa wrong. Misa Amane, a bad girl who smokes? Huh? Then Light and Mia make eye contact, and it's obvious that Light is into her, and alright, 3 strikes and you're out. Light is not into Misa. The only thing Light is into is murder. From the moment they meet until the end of the series, Misa could drop dead right in front of Light, and he'd be like, I mean, I guess I lost the Shinigami eyes, but she's not around to mess things up anymore. We're only a minute into this movie. I can't believe I have this much to say already. So while Light is sitting there, the Death Note falls from the sky, and he picks it up and takes it without a second thought. Then it starts to rain, and all of the students run inside. Light, and also coincidentally Mia, happen upon a student getting beat up. Mia decides to rush in and start trying to take on the bullies herself. I tried to imagine how Misa would respond to this situation because Lord knows she wouldn't do this. And then I remembered the scene where Light and Elle are fighting each other, and her response to that is to just go, ah! And then hide behind a table. I have to laugh. It is just so polar opposite. One of the guys pushes Mia, and then Light rushes in and yells, "Don't touch her!" And again, it's just so funny. These characters are so different. Then Light starts going on this rant where he's like, if you hit me, it will be considered child abuse, and then you'll end up on a registry. And he just seems like one of those guys in high school that don't say very much and have really dark interests, and when you try to talk them, they go on these very long, strange rants where they're just trying to seem smarter and better than you. Am I speaking from experience? Maybe. Anyway, the bully punches him and knocks him out, and then later a teacher finds him, and instead of helping the unconscious student, she picks up the papers he dropped, which is the homework he was doing. Now he's in the principal's office, and he's in trouble for doing other people's homework. Light asks why he's not concerned that he was passed out, and the principal says it's because Mia told them she saw him walk into a pole. I guess she was trying to cover for him so no one knew that he got punched, but it's still just so weird to me that instead of calling 911 for an unconscious student, or trying to help Light, the teacher's first response was to just start going through his stuff. The principal conveniently mentions that Light's mom died, so R.I.P. Sachiko, and then he gives him 2 weeks of detention. In the hallway, he tries to talk to Mia, but her friends pull her away because Light is an outcast. Yes, you heard that right. Light is an outcast. I don't know how you get it this wrong. Part of the reason people don't suspect that Light is Kira is because he's a popular, smart, charming, handsome guy. They think, oh, it could never be Light. He's so nice and cool. This guy's gonna be the first person people suspect. If there's one thing stranger than Light Yagami in detention, it's Light Yagami falling asleep in detention. He's left alone in the room, and he takes out the Death Note and reads the rules. I'm sure most people know how the Death Note works, even if you haven't watched the anime or read the manga, but just in case you don't, the most basic, most simple explanation is if you write someone's name in the Death Note, they die. You can also specify a cause of death, but if you don't, they'll just die of a heart attack. All of a sudden, the lights go out. Some glass breaks and marbles go flying across the floor. That's when we see him. Ryuk. Again, just in case you don't know, Ryuk is a Shinigami, aka a god of death. They hang around whoever owns their Death Note. Now, Light is a little startled at first, but he regains his composure because he's been expecting... Oh no, wait, that was the anime? Right. Sorry. So Movie Light starts freaking the F out, and he's screaming and running around and pounding on the door, begging someone to help him. Now, like I was saying earlier, in the anime, Light is, of course, startled at first, but he quickly calms down and regains his composure because he's been expecting Ryuk. He's not afraid of him. Movie Light... Who are you? Like, seriously, how dare you call yourself Light? Also, Ryuk is causing things to fly all over the place, and what is with the paranormal act? Lights going out, things flying all across the room. Like, the most paranormal thing you're gonna get with actual Ryuk is if he starts eating an apple before you're able to see him. So after Light finally calms down, Ryuk tells him to look out the window, and he sees the bullies from before harassing a girl. Ryuk hands him the Death Note and eggs him on to write down the name of the main bully. Eventually he does, and writes his cause of death as decapitation. That's when a near car accident causes a ladder to fly off of a truck and slice the bully's head off. Ryuk tells Light that he thinks he's got what it takes, and asks him to imagine what else he could do before disappearing. Now, in principle, Shinigamis aren't really supposed to do anything that will help or prevent a death in the note, and I also can't recall Ryuk ever being like, come on, write this guy's name down, write it down. But that's what this Ryuk does. He practically forces Light to use this note. In the movie, they make Ryuk out to be this evil being that you shouldn't trust. And he's constantly egging Light on and being like, come on, kill more people or give up the Death Note and I'll kill you. Which he's a Shinigami. I'm not saying Ryuk is a stand-up guy, but he's never being a constant threat to Light and ordering him what to do or else he'll die. Movie Light and anime Light are so completely different, but one thing that I notice is that they try to make Movie Light into this person who never wanted this and he doesn't know how to stop what he's doing. But anime/manga Light, he knew what he was doing from the start. By the time Ryuk showed up, he was like, I have wrote lots and lots and lots of names, and Ryuk is like, well, okay. So back home, Light's dad is getting on Light about the homework and detention. Like any responsible parent would, but it causes Light to blow up on him about his mom. Apparently his mom was hit by a car and the guy who did it got away with it because he paid his way out of jail, and Light is mad at his dad because he's a cop and did nothing about it. Light's life is extremely dysfunctional and sad. It's exactly the kind of home life you would expect someone like Kira to have. I mean, think about modern serial killers. A lot of them had home lives that weren't the best. Actual Light has a perfect happy family. He just has a perfect happy life in general. That's why you would never suspect him. Why would someone who has it all do something like this? The answer is because he's bored. Light goes upstairs and is looking through the Death Note, and he finds that someone wrote down, don't trust Ryuk, which again is weird because like I said before, Ryuk is just kind of there in the series. Trust isn't really an issue with him. He's not going to be actively plotting your demise and deceiving you, but he's also not going to help you unless he finds what you're doing entertaining. The worst you're going to have to worry about with him is that he's just not going to tell you certain rules about the Death Note. You're either going to have to just directly ask him yourself or figure out that something's up because he won't stop laughing at you. Ryuk eventually shows up and talks to Light about how the Death Note works, and at one point he's talking about how you can only control people with the Death Note for up to 2 days, and he holds up 2 fingers, and Light goes,
2 days, your fingers are huge.
And I don't know, that just made me feel really dead inside. Can you imagine this man saying that? Light decides to kill the man who killed his mom, and oh my god, the way he dies is so gross! Don't worry, I'm not gonna show it, but basically, he's at a restaurant and a waiter falls on him, and then he impales himself with a steak knife, and he starts spewing blood and food, and it's so gross! So the next day at school, Light is sitting on the bleachers looking at the Death Note. This man has the Death Note out in public, and he's looking at it. Light would never do something so stupid. I mean, he has a whole secret compartment in his desk to hide the Death Note, and it'll blow up if you don't open it the right way. He only ever really brings pages of it with him out in public, and even then, he makes it a point to hide those. Mia sits next to him and starts talking to him, but she obviously sees the notebook, and she's like, a Death Note? What's that? This guy's awful. He immediately blew it. Light says that he can't tell her what it is, but the second Mia makes even the slightest movement to get up and leave, he's like, do you really want to know? I'll show you. I am shocked. I am baffled. He's really going to tell her about the Death Note because he thinks that she's pretty. He hands her the Death Note and tries to show her Ryuk, but she can't see him. Ryuk says that only the owner of the Death Note can see him, which is just a load of crap. In the series, they're passing Death Notes around to see Shinigami. Light even uses it in a plan at one point by having a guy touch a piece of paper from the Death Note so he sees Ryuk and makes him seem crazy. Anyway, Light just tells Mia what the Death Note is, and to prove it to her, he pulls up a live feed of a hostage situation and has the criminal killed. Light tells her that he wants to help people who have been screwed over by killing criminals, and Mia is super into this. She's like, we're gonna change the world, and then they go back to his place and start making out, and gross, blah. Then there's this montage of them killing criminals while making out and doing nasty stuff, and I hate this. They made Light into a simp who told Mia about the Death Note on day one because he thinks that she's pretty, and now they're this couple that just goes around killing people while smooching. Look, Light Yagami knows that he is an attractive, charming man. He knows that women want him. He uses this to his advantage to manipulate the women around him into doing what he wants. And Misa is no exception to this. He considers her a nuisance who is always messing things up, and if it weren't for Rem protecting her, he would have killed her right after they met. And after Rem is gone, he only keeps her around for the Shinigami eyes. The only time Light shows Misa affection is when he's manipulating her into doing something that he wants. And then you have Movie Light over here who's telling Mia about the Death Note immediately because he thinks that she's hot. Light and Mia decide that they want to be known as a sort of god, so they decide to start calling themselves Kira, because it means killer in Japanese. They start having all the victims write the name before they die. This is just kind of silly because in the series, the public notices that all these criminals are dying and determines that someone must be behind it and decides to call this someone Kira. And at first, Light is like, I don't really like that name, but if that's what they want to call me, whatever. And I don't know, the public taking notice of this and coming up with the name Kira just seems a lot more interesting to me than two Americans sitting in their bedroom going, ooh, what if we call ourselves Kira because it means killer in Japanese? Moving on, we're shown a series of news reports from around the world talking about Kira. We now see the site of a mass murder likely caused by Kira. And who is investigating the scene? L. I'm sorry, but not only is it funny that L is just out in public investigating, but his disguise is just a hood and a mask. He's not even disguising his voice or anything. He's talking normally. This is his master disguise. Now look, I feel genuinely bad for this actor because you can tell that he's genuinely trying to act like L. He's doing the voice and the mannerisms. I mean, it comes off kind of weird, and I think it's because he's trying to mimic an anime character rather than how a real life person with those mannerisms would move. But also the script just does not help because, of course, they butcher L, just like they do with Light and Misa. Anyway, L gets into a limo and Watari is there. He has L put on these weird glasses and eat candy to make him fall asleep, and then L asks him to sing a really creepy lullaby to him.
You're out of the woods, you're out of the dark, you're out of the night.
Meanwhile, Light's dad gets assigned to the Kira case, and Light's not happy about it. At work, his dad's office gets trashed because his co-workers are Kira supporters. Then Watari shows up and tells him that he works for L, and he has a theory about the case, and Light's dad is like, L is real? Yet again, I'm sure you know this, but just in case someone out there doesn't, L is a world-famous detective who has solved every case that he's been on. But no one has ever seen him or knows his true name and identity. He uses Watari as a stand-in. If L is working on a case, Watari will show up with a computer that L communicates through, but he uses a filter to mask his voice. He's a world-famous detective who has solved huge cases. He needs to conceal his identity to stay safe. Movie L doesn't really take any of these precautions though. For example, he doesn't have a filter on his voice when he first speaks to Light's dad, and then after that brief conversation, he jumps straight to meeting him in person. I mean, he's still got the hood and mask, but really, that's not concealing much. Actual L only reveals his identity to the task force when he really has no choice but to. Not only does he need to gain their trust, but he needs to show Kira that he and the rest of the task force are willing to risk their lives and that justice will prevail. Movie L talks to Light's dad once and is like, yeah, sure, let's meet in person. Why not? L tells him that Kira is in Seattle because his first victim was this guy, aka the one Light killed to prove the Death Note's powers to Mia. He also says that there's evidence that Kira accessed the police's database and then declares that he wants to talk to Kira. At school, Mia finds a forum where users list people Kira should kill, and Light is like, well, we can't trust this because someone could be mad that some guy fucked his girlfriend and want him dead. And then Mia is all, would you kill someone who fucked me? And then Light is like, oh yeah, I would. Do I even need to point out how out of character this is anymore? Do I even need to point out the fact that they're talking about killing people in public? So L holds a press conference where he tells Kira that he's coming for him, and yes, he is holding the conference himself. He doesn't have a stand-in. He said that he did it because he has a theory that Kira needs a name and a face to kill. And this proved it because he's not dead. Okay, they made L stupid too. L wouldn't put himself in the public eye for that. Let me rephrase that. L didn't put himself in the public eye for that. Instead, he sent out a criminal that was about to be executed, and when Light kills him, he reveals that he is actually L. He tells Kira to kill him, but Light isn't able to without a name and face. Plus, they only aired this broadcast in a specific area, so it narrowed down where Kira is located. Not only was this plan way cooler, but he got the information that he needed without putting himself at risk in revealing his identity. Sorry. Movie L did not reveal his identity. He had his awesome disguise on. Back at home, Light tries to ask his dad about L and the Kira case, but he's just so suspicious sounding, I don't know how his dad doesn't question it. Light Yagami is a grade A actor, honestly. Light Turner, this is his acting.
You okay?
Yeah.
So Elle assigns FBI agents to follow all the suspects, and Light is one of them because he could potentially be able to access police databases because of his dad. His dad is super mad about it though, and is like, how dare you accuse my son of being Kira? So I guess they finally got something right. One of Light's dad's catchphrases is, my son is not Kira. Mia suggests that they kill the FBI agents, and Light is like, no, we can't kill innocent people. And why is Mia acting more like Light Yagami than Light? Now, I fully believe that in the beginning, Light had no intention of killing non-criminals, but the Death Note corrupts him, and he becomes more than okay with killing anyone that gets in his way. I mean, he literally has the agents killed in the show. Movie Light is really against killing anyone that's not a criminal, but let me tell you something about Light Yagami. Someone could be this much of a problem for him, and he'd be like, yeah, they need to die. Ryuk is super into the idea though, and he's like, you should do it, Light. Mia has great ideas. And Light is like, no, shut up. And then Mia and Light's relationship starts to sour. But surprise, surprise, suddenly all the FBI agents die. Then Light starts running through the school halls yelling, Ryuk screwed us over! And then he and Mia are arguing about whether it's a good thing or not in the middle of the hallway. These two are so stupid! There's so many people around! Light gets home and asks Ryuk if he killed them, and he's like, what do you think? Spoiler alert, the movie wants you to think it's Ryuk, but it was actually Mia. They don't reveal this until the end of the movie though. Which thank goodness it wasn't Ryuk, because if it was, we would have a problem here, and there's already enough problems with this movie. I say this because in the series, Ryuk knows the names of all the people Light wants to kill, but instead of helping him, he just sits there like, LOL, have fun figuring that one out. Light gets pissed at him and says that if he messes with him again, he's writing his name in the Death Note. And Ryuk is like, go ahead and try. The last person who did only got 2 letters down. But did we forget that someone wrote don't trust Ryuk in the Death Note? Does that not count? I mean, discounting all the stuff in the show about how you can't kill a Shinigami that way, you need their real name, yada yada yada. That doesn't apply in the movie. Light's dad holds a press conference where he's basically like, fuck you, Kira! You killed innocent people! I'm gonna get you! Basically, this is supposed to test Kira to see if he'll kill him. Also, L is in the audience and he doesn't have his hood up, so he lost half of his awesome disguise. Then Mia tries to kill him, but Light is like, no, he's my dad! This is over, we aren't the good guys. Yeah, this guy is not Light. Light never even considers the possibility that he could be in the wrong. From the very beginning to the end of the series, he's like, yeah, I am a god who will save this world. Mia asks him if he wants to just quit, and Light says no. Later, Light's dad gets home, and Light rushes up to him to tell him that he's proud of him. L then tells Watari that Light is Kira because he spared his dad's life. Light is in a cafe looking over a book on Shinigami when L shows up and sits across from him. L tells him that he knows he's Kira because of the incident with his dad, and Light is like, well, why don't you just arrest me? And L says he doesn't have enough evidence yet. And partway through the conversation, L just takes his mask off. He's like, you know what? Forget this disguise. Then Light is like, hey, theoretically, what if Kira wanted to stop killing? Shouldn't you maybe help him instead of hunting him? So basically just admitting that he's Kira. And then L is like, so you're trying to say that someone who killed 400 people is misunderstood. I think Kira would still kill that criminal. Then Light gets all mad and yells, you don't understand! L is like, you flew too close to the sun and now you're gonna burn! And then Light smiles evilly and says, if that's how it has to be. I feel that it is unnecessary for me to point out that everything that comes out of Light's mouth in this scene is out of character. Both you and I know that Light Yagami would not say these things. He does not want the killings to stop. He does not want help. But most importantly, he would not have made it so obvious that he's Kira. The dude pretty much admitted to it multiple times in this conversation. Mia is waiting for Light outside of his house. She tells him that she loves him, so they make up and make out. Inside, Light reveals his genius plan to find out L's name. He's going to write Watari's name in the Death Note and make him obsessed with revealing L's identity. For the next 48 hours, he will only report to Light about what he finds on L and then dies. Now, Watari is an innocent person, and this version of Light is against killing any non-criminals. Except L. So Ryuk tells him he can burn the page and it will cancel the death. But this method can only be used once. Now you may be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, you can't do that in the series? You would be right. It is impossible to cancel a death in the series. Once you write their name, that's it. That person is going to die one way or another. He also doesn't write down the cause of death and just says, oh, it's dealer's choice, which that isn't how it works. If you don't write down the cause of death, they're just going to die of a heart attack. Here's the big thing about his plan though. To kill someone, you need their face and their first and last name. Light does not have Watari's last name, so he just writes Watari and the Death Note and it works! Are you telling me that this guy's name is just Watari? His parents were like, nope. Don't give him our last name. He's just Watari. Not only that, but in the series, Watari isn't even his real name. It's a fake one to protect his identity. Okay, writing just Watari works. And he calls Light and says that L was raised in an orphanage where the aim was to create the perfect detective. He doesn't know L's real name and it only exists in the records at the orphanage. So Light tells him to go there. Watari is now on the move and headed to the orphanage, but L notices that he's missing. That evening, Light, his dad, and Mia are all talking when all of a sudden L shows up and sits down at the table. Light's dad is like, how did you get in here? And Ella's like, I've got a search warrant. But that still doesn't explain how he got in the house. He didn't knock on the door because they didn't hear it. He didn't break in, they would have heard that too. So that means the door must have just been unlocked and he walked right in. And Mr. Turner, you are a police officer and heading the Kira investigation. Why are you leaving your door unlocked? Elle asks Mia to leave the room and then accuses Light of being Kira again, and his dad is like, no, it's not him. And Ella's like, you're stupid for not figuring it out. And then he just starts to kind of freak out and lose his cool because Watari is missing and he thinks Kira, aka Light, is behind it. Light's dad just body slams Elle onto the table and Ella's all, you've gone too far. And Light's dad is yelling, I'm gonna kill you! What is happening? Who are these people? They are not the characters that I know and love. Ella's let go and then he starts yelling, tear this place apart! Tear it apart! I'm sorry, but can you imagine this guy yelling, tear this place apart! Tear it apart! While they're searching the house, Ryuk taunts Light and is like, you better hope they don't find the Death Note or it returns to me and I'll have you killed. Ryuk seems to really hate Light in this movie and is constantly taunting him and telling him to give up ownership of the Death Note. In the series, Ryuk is just so entertained by Light. He's not threatening him and pleading him to give up the Death Note. He's just kind of like, whatever, as long as I'm not bored. And to try and say this without spoiling the end of the show for anyone who hasn't seen it, the only reason he does what he does at the end is because he would have ended up being bored for many, many years otherwise. Movie Light is not entertaining and is just really bad at what he does. So Ryuk is just like, please, for the love of God, give up ownership of the Death Note. Please, let me kill you. Once the police leave, Light discovers that the Death Note is gone. You see, you wouldn't have had this problem if you had Anime Light's exploding drawer. L now has people constantly following him around, but that doesn't stop him from screaming at Watari over the phone to hurry up and find L's name. At school, Mia reveals that she took the Death Note before the police showed up, so they're still safe on that front. It's now time for homecoming, and Light shows up in a top hat. Imagine Light Yagami wearing a top hat. You can't. Because he wouldn't. He would never show up to a function in a top hat because he would look like an idiot. And boy, does Movie Light look like an idiot wearing that top hat. And oh my God, don't make that face. Don't! I'm not even going to ask you to imagine Light making that face. He just wouldn't. Mia dances with another guy and they give him the ugly top hat so L's men think that he's Light. Meanwhile, Light grabs the Death Note and calls Watari, who made it to the orphanage and is about to reveal L's name. But then Light discovers that Mia tore the page with Watari's name on it out of the Death Note, so now Light can't burn the page to save him. But honestly, I think this works out better for Light because if Watari lives, he could easily tell everyone where he's been, what he's been doing, who he's been talking to. And even if Watari would like lose his memories of it all or something, or just doesn't come back to his senses, Light's phone number is going to be in his call history. So anyway, Light tells Watari that he needs to run, as if that's going to do anything. Yeah, who knew the one way to outsmart the Death Note was to just run away from whatever's trying to kill you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go run from a heart attack. Watari's like, no, I must tell you L's name. It's... And then a bunch of soldiers burst into the room and ask, are you Watari? He says yes, and then they shoot him to death. I wish I could tell you who these soldiers are and why they killed Watari, but I honestly don't know. The movie never tells you. And it seems like the internet doesn't know either, because when I tried looking it up, some places refer to them as security and other places refer to them as unknown soldiers. So yeah, Watari was just massacred in an abandoned orphanage by some random soldiers, and we'll never know why. Ryuk shows up to laugh at Light, and then Light asks him why he didn't tell him that Mia tore a page out, and Ryuk says it's because he really likes Mia. Okay, now Ryuk is a Mia simp. But you know, maybe it makes sense since she's the one acting more like Anime Light. Back at the dance, Light confronts Mia about what she did, and this is when she admits that she was also the one who killed the FBI agents. She tells Light that he's a pussy, and she wrote his name in the Death Note too. She did this so that she can control Light and have him give her ownership of the book, and then she'll burn the page so he doesn't die. If you remember, you can only do the page burning trick once, so that's why she stole Watari's page so that she could use it on Light instead. Meanwhile, Elle gets a call that Watari died, and all of the sound fades out, and Elle screams in silence. It kills me every time! I don't even know if you can see it. I have the clip saved on my phone. I can't even do it. Oh, I gotta watch it again. I'm not even joking, the first time I saw it, I was in tears from laughing so hard. So Elle has now totally lost it and steals a police car, and he's on the run looking for Light. Then Light's dad calls the rest of the force and tells him that Elle is armed and dangerous and that Light needs to be put into protective custody. Back at the school, Light pulls up the forum full of criminals people want killed from forever ago and writes something down in the Death Note before texting Mia to meet him at the Ferris wheel and running for it. Elle sees Light, and then there's a wacky chase scene. Elle eventually corners Light and has him held at gunpoint and is all, you killed Watari, you're gonna pay for it. And Light is like, me too, I never wanted all this, I can't stop it. Ugh. Mia was right. This Light is a pussy. Then some guy shows up and is like, and Elle is like, stay back, this man is Kira. And then immediately after that, the guy whacks Elle over the head with a big board and then looks at Light and goes, you're Kira? And Light nods before running off. Talk about a loyal Kira supporter. This man walked outside, was told Light was Kira, and then was immediately like, oh crap. He didn't even give it a second thought. He was just like, I have to end this man. So Light gets to the Ferris wheel and he and Mia get in it. While inside, Light tries to convince Mia that they'd be better off without the Death Note and that if she loves him, she won't take it. Mia says that she loves him, but takes the Death Note anyway, and Light is like, no! Light reveals that he wrote Mia's name, but it was contingent on her taking the Death Note. So basically, she was only going to die if she took the Death Note, but that's not how it works. If you write someone's name in the Death Note, they are going to die. You can't just write, oh, this person will die only if they do this certain thing. If the Death Note is not capable of doing what you write, that person will just die of a heart attack. So Mia, theoretically, should be doomed no matter what. Not only that, but in the Death Note he wrote, when Mia grabs the Death Note. So I think he basically just mind controlled her into grabbing the Death Note, whether she wanted to or not. He wrote in the Death Note, so the Death Note was like, okay, she's gonna grab it. So way to go, Lights, that was real smart. Then Ryuk shows up and just starts destroying the Ferris wheel, and I'm really not sure why. There's no explanation for it. Ryuk doesn't say anything. He just starts destroying it. My best guess is that Light asked Ryuk to do it, because as he starts destroying it, Light yells, Ryuk, I take it back. So I'm wondering if he changed his mind, and he doesn't want Mia to die, and he thinks that if Ryuk stops destroying the Ferris wheel, it'll stop her death. This is jumping ahead a bit, but he did write in the Death Note that the Ferris wheel breaks. So because he wrote that, is Ryuk just sort of being controlled in a similar way that this waiter was when he fell on this guy earlier and it caused his death? I don't know. They literally just never explain why Ryuk is destroying the Ferris wheel. It's just another mystery like the unknown soldiers. Anyway, the Ferris wheel is falling apart and Mia and the Death Note fall. Then Light slips and falls too. This all happens in slow motion as I Don't Want to Live Without You by Chicago plays. It just comes off as comedic when it's really not supposed to. Like honestly, now I just want to put this song over deaths from the actual series because I think it'd be funny. I don't wanna live without your love. I don't wanna face the night alone. I could never make it through my life if I had to make it on my own. Mia ends up falling to her death, which means the last thing she saw before she died was this. Light and the Death Note, however, fall into the water. So now I'm going to explain what exactly Light's plan was. If Mia were to grab the Death Note, the Ferris wheel would break and she would die, while Light and the Death Note fell into the water. The page with Light's name on it would land in some fire, which happened, but before it burned, Elle saw the page. Elle seeing the page, however, was not in the plan. Also, side note, I don't think you can control a piece of paper with the Death Notes, but whatever. So remember when Light was writing names before his wacky chase scene with Elle? Well, he wrote that one criminal, who happened to be a doctor, would pull Light out of the water, save him, and then put him in a medically induced coma for a few days. Then a different criminal would find the Death Note, write names in it to give Light an alibi, then return it to him at the hospital. Now there are for sure flaws with the rules of the Death Note here, but there have been the whole movie. Aside from that, I guess I'll give Light credit for finally coming up with a convoluted plan to make things work out in his favor. It's just kind of weird that he's been an idiot this whole movie and then comes up with this plan in just a few minutes. So Elle ends up being removed from the investigation and gets on a plane to head home. Before the plane takes off, he remembers when he confronted Light. You know, when he was all, I can't stop this. Well, at that time, Light also said this. Now, the reason I played the clip instead of saying it is because I actually have no clue what he's saying here. I have replayed this clip over and over again, and I don't know what he's saying. All I can make out is through a fucking calculus book. But I can't tell what he's saying before that. Does anyone know? Please help me. Elle is hung up on this line though, so he takes out his phone and calls someone. I don't know who. He asks them, did Light Turner take calculus? No. What about his girlfriend? And then he hangs up and goes, don't take off. I'm sorry, but who did he call in the middle of the night that just knew off the top of their head whether Light and Mia took calculus? Hello, this is the National Calculus Organization. Oh, did Light Turner take calculus? Let me check my registry. No, he did not. Back at the hospital, Light's dad shows up and is like, you're Kira because the real first victim was the guy who killed Mom. And Light is like, yeah, but let it be known that I am the lesser of two evils. Meanwhile, Ella breaks into Mia's house and finds her calculus book. Inside, he finds the page with the FBI agents' names on them. He goes crazy and starts laughing to himself before contemplating writing Light's name, because I guess he just understands that writing names kills people now. It seems he stops himself at the last minute, but I am just baffled by what they did to these characters. Elle nearly killing Light with the Death Note? He would not do that. I'm aware that Elle does some questionable things himself, and the creator even said that Elle is slightly evil, but he wouldn't use the Death Note. Even if Light ended up killing Watari in the anime and Elle was still alive, he wouldn't have gone on some crazy madman rampage and then considered writing Light's name in the Death Note. He wouldn't, because that's not winning the game. He'd just be that much more determined to bring him to justice. We cut back to the hospital and Ryuk shows up. He laughs before saying, humans are so interesting. And then the credits roll. The end, the movie's over. Okay, the Uncharted movie is bad and I hate it, But this is worse. The Americanization of the story, the disregard for the rules of the Death Note, the disrespect to the characters. Need I go on? I feel like it's so bad that I don't need to point out everything that's wrong. I think the absolute worst part, though, is how they got the characters' personalities so wrong. It's like they took the characters and said, okay, let's do the opposite of that. What happened to the cutesy ditzy Misa who ruins every plan she's part of? What happened to the mysterious yet incredibly smart and sly L? And then there's the worst character in this movie, Light. And that pains me to say because look at my shirt. He's my favorite Death Note character. They took everything interesting about him and threw it in the trash. Light is smart. He's cunning. He's very careful not to reveal the Death Note to anyone. He's popular. He's handsome. He has a strong sense of justice. He's someone whose morals get completely corrupted by the Death Note. He has a god complex. He does not think that he's in the wrong. He does not want to stop what he's doing. He thinks that he himself is justice and that anyone who gets in his way should die. Movie Light? To take everything that I just said and make it the opposite and you have him. I'm honestly baffled that you could get it so wrong. And let's talk about the relationships. Where's the cat and mouse game between Light and L? These two going back and forth, trying to outsmart each other, is one of the best parts of the series. Light and L barely interact in the movie, and half the time when they do, L's not using any intellect because he's just like, ah, watery! And honestly, it seems like Light isn't anywhere as near concerned about L as he is in the show. And then there's Mia and Light. Why is Mia the one manipulating Light? Light Yagami has never been romantically interested in Misa. Like I said, he's just kind of stuck with her because of Rem and the Shinigami eyes. And Misa is more so in love with the idea of Light. Kira killed the man who killed her family, so she's eternally grateful to him and wants to be with whoever he is. If Kira was L, she would have ended up being in love with him. Kira could have been freaking, I don't know, Mogi, and she would have been in love with him. Light uses this to his advantage to get Misa to do whatever he wants. He is so far from the simp that the movie makes him out to be. Honestly, I could go on forever about all the stuff that's wrong with the movie, but I think I need to stop. I'm just getting myself riled up at this point. It's been announced that the creators of Stranger Things are going to be making a Death Note series, and I just have to ask, why? Surely they saw all the backlash that this movie got. Right? Death Note fans don't want a live action version. We love the series the way it is. Just please leave it alone. And that just goes for anime in general. Why do people feel the need to make live action adaptations that no one asked for? You know, animation is an art form too, and it's so incredibly impressive. It just seems that some people in the industry feel that live action is like the superior art form and that making a live action version of something makes it better. But that's just not true. But you know, if you guys do want me to check out the series and make a video on it when it does come out, let me know. I'll do it. Who knows? Maybe I'll be eating my words and it'll be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I can't believe I just said the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I think that about does it for me today, guys. Let me know what other movies, games, TV shows, anime, whatever you would like me to talk about next in the comments below. And now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go write your name in the Death Note, but it's contingent on whether or not you like this video. If you don't like the video, you'll die. But if you do like the video, you'll live. Because that's apparently how the Death Note works, right?